The room went silent. It was a plush golden cage of a dining room. 6 powerful men froze. All eyes were on Sophia. The waitress had just returned from a brief, hushed phone call. She hadn't meant to disturb them. She hadn't meant to be heard. But she was. The headman's eyes, dark, cold, lethal, were the sharpest. He was Dante Richi. He saw everything, and he was watching her. She felt the realization hit her like a physical blow, a massive, life-altering mistake. She just spoke Italian, fluent, native Italian. Her grandmother's voice, her dying whisper, had dragged the truth from her lips. The most dangerous secret she carried was now exposed in front of the most powerful, most connected man in the entire city. She stammered out an apology. She rushed through the rest of the service. She was terrified. Hours later, she was packing a small suitcase. A car was on its way to her tiny, anonymous apartment. The question wasn't if she would go. The question was what impossible price she would pay for revealing her truth. Sophia was new to New York. She arrived 6 months ago with nothing but a desperate hope. She fled Boston to escape a dangerous past, an escalating situation with a controlling man. Now she was trying to disappear. Her life was simple. She was a waitress at Bellissimo, an upscale Italian restaurant. She kept her head down. She was quiet. She was invisible. She needed this job desperately. Fresh starts were expensive, but tonight the rules changed. Tonight she served table 7, the VIP room. The staff whispered about the man at the head of that table. It was Mr. Richi, Dante Richi, the phantom owner. Rumors followed his name like a shadow. They spoke of vast wealth. They spoke of a network of influence. They spoke of more dangerous enterprises. He was a man people feared. Sophia moved through the room with training-mandated efficiency. She tried to be background noise. She tried to be just a body. But he noted her immediately. Dante Richi was younger than expected. Dark hair, tailored suit, cold intelligence in his eyes. He stopped her as she took his order. "You're new," he stated. Not a question. Just an observation. His voice was low and smooth. It carried a hint of an accent she couldn't place. She mumbled her reply. She needed to get out of that room. Then the terrible interruption. The phone vibrated in her apron pocket. It was the nurse from the hospice in Italy. Her grandmother was very ill. Critically ill. Sophia backed toward the door. She tried to shield the screen. She had to answer it. Her heart lurched with dread. She pressed the phone to her ear. She whispered the only greeting that felt real. "Pronto." The nurse delivered the worst news. Sophia's hand curled into a fist at her side. She listened in stunned, silent agony. She closed her eyes to blink back tears. When she opened them, the world had shifted. The entire table was staring. Dante Richi's dark gaze was different now. Sharper, more focused. He was seeing her for the first time. She realized her mistake. She had just spoken her native language. Her heart pounded a frantic rhythm. She apologized again. She rushed through the rest of the meal service. Each time she entered the room, she felt his eyes tracking her. An unnerving, total attention. An hour after the men left, Marco, the floor manager, appeared. His face was a mask of panic. He whispered the terrible news. "Mr. Richi would like to speak with you before you leave." Sophia's stomach dropped. The headman, the phantom owner. He was still here. His office was small but elegant. Dark wood paneling, a massive desk. A silent, broad-shouldered bodyguard stood by the door. She sat in the chair, her back rigid. Was she fired? For taking a call? For speaking her language? He cut straight to the point. No preamble. "You speak Italian like a native." Sophia admitted the obvious. She was a native. He nodded slowly. Then came the true purpose of the summons. Her call. The bad news from home. He knew. He needed a translator. for a 2-week high-stakes business trip to Italy, to Florence, and Rome. She didn't understand. It seemed too sudden, too perfect. He slid a slim black folder across the desk, a folder that changed everything. Inside was a first-class ticket to Florence, a ticket for tomorrow afternoon. Beside it was an envelope. She peeked inside. It was more cash than she had ever seen. A massive advance payment, a lifeline. She could see her dying grandmother one last time, but the gift came with a cost. "Why me?" she forced out. "You could hire a professional." Dante's lips curved into a ghost of a smile. He preferred someone authentic, someone he had personally vetted. Her blood ran cold. He leaned back in his chair. "The car will pick you up at your apartment at noon tomorrow." He knew where she lived, every detail. She had to know the extent of his knowledge. "How?" she whispered. He gave the easy answer. "Employee records." But his eyes held the true story. He reached into his jacket. He withdrew another folder. He slid it across the desk again. This one was different. Inside was a detailed dossier, her college graduation photo, her transcript, her previous addresses, even her low credit score. And then the final page, a police report, 00:20:46. The documentation of the assault, the bruises her abusive ex-boyfriend had left on her wrists. Her hands shook as she closed the file. This was beyond vetting an employee. This was an invasion. He took the folder back. His voice was softer now, almost gentle. He knew she was desperate. He knew she had no connections. He knew she was vulnerable. He told her the real reason, a final, shocking piece of the puzzle. 01:31:39. He recognized her last name. Her grandfather, Antonio Russo, had worked for Dante's father years ago. He had died in service. A debt, Dante said, his family had never properly repaid. This wasn't a job. It was an obligation, an inexplicable connection to a world she didn't know. She stood on shaky legs. She took the ticket and the folder of cash. She had no choice. She had to see her Nona. In Florence, the world was a blur of opulence. Designer clothes, private suites in a stunning Tuscan villa, and high-stakes meetings. She was no longer a waitress. She was an accessory. She was his associate. One night at a private dinner, she was used as a human lie detector. Dante placed her at his right hand. He instructed her to translate, but with one crucial exception. If anything revealing was said, she was to give him a signal. Touch the pearl necklace he had gifted her. The conversation was about business, a major shipping company acquisition. Rivals argued over price. Then a rival, Alio Ferrero, leaned in toward his partners. He spoke too fast. He thought Dante wouldn't understand. 00:49:54. He whispered about the real value, about shadowy warehouse contents in Livorno, something illegal, something important. Sophia's hand shot up. Her fingers instinctively closed around the pearl. The signal. Dante's eyes flicked to her hand, then back to Ferrero. Not a flicker of emotion. The boss acted instantly. He immediately restructured the deal. He acquired the very warehouses Ferrero wanted to hide. Ferrero's face went cold. He was ruined. It was a setup. Later, at an exclusive art gallery, the confrontation came. Dante saw Ferrero mingling. He was not on the guest list. Dante tried to leave, but it was too late. 3 men in dark suits entered the gallery. 01:24:28. They were the Guardia di Finanza, financial police. Dante's posture changed completely. He grabbed Sophia's elbow. They ran, out the back door, into a waiting car. It was a perfect, calculated setup by Ferrero. He had sold Dante out to the police. As the car sped away, Sophia saw Ferrero watching from a window, a smile of pure, cold triumph on his face. Dante was silent. His jaw was tight. His expression was granite. He finally admitted the truth. The shipping company was a 012755 front. It was for much darker business. Ferrero thought Sophia was Dante's vulnerability, his weak spot. He thought she was the way to destroy him. Sophia felt the car's engine roar beneath them. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She looked at the man beside her. This wealthy, dangerous, controlling man. She asked the question that had burned in her since the art gallery. Am I? Dante turned his head. His dark eyes met hers in the gloom of the car, fierce, possessive. He didn't hesitate. 012552. Yes, he said simply. You are. In the quiet Swiss chalet, the man of impossible power took complete control. He flew her grandmother with a full medical team to a high-security suite on his mountain property. He ensured Sophia could visit her Nonna daily. The threat was too great to stay in Italy. He moved their lives instantly, without consultation, without apology. He stood on the terrace later that night. His voice was low. He was forced to restructure his entire empire, to call in favors. He was doing this because of her. She looked at the man who had terrified her, the man who had exposed her secrets, the man who had saved her grandmother, and she knew she couldn't leave. He knelt before her. He took her hands. His eyes held a vulnerability that terrified her more than his power. I have no regrets, he whispered. He had chosen her. He chose the risk. She was the one who had been running her entire life, running from fear, running from control. Now she was finally still. She whispered the only answer that mattered, the answer that defied her logic, the answer that was her true homecoming. I want to stay. With you. He pulled her into his arms. His heart beat strong and steady against hers. 014003. He told her the truth. His world was not safe. It was not simple. But he made her a different kind of promise. I can't change who I am, Sophia. His lips brushed her hair. But I can promise you this. You will never be alone again, and I will protect you with my life. It wasn't a conventional declaration of love. There were no roses or white dresses. It was a promise forged in danger, a promise from a man who kept his word at any cost. 014109. She chose his arms. She chose the danger. She chose the man who saw her not as a secret, but as his precious, essential weakness.